And as I mentioned to our participants, we are using the built-in Zoom captioning service. And so if you are wanting to see the captioning, and I'm asking this also to kind of get feedback on your thoughts on it, you would go to the More button, and then you can put Show Subtitles, and that will give you the caption for tonight. And so far, I'm pretty happy with them. So, Miss Heather Hobson, I'm going to start with you, and I want to introduce y'all to why we're doing this session. A lot of you have mentioned that doing video is something you really want to do to share your story. And it's kind of like hard. I don't know. Talking to myself, I'm really conscientious. So I wanted to share a little bit about why we're doing this, best practices, all of that. And these two wonderful ladies really are the gurus. So Heather Hobson, we're going to start with you.
Awesome. And can I also share my screen during this?
Let me give you that ability.
Permission. So while she does that,
Perfect.
thank you guys for letting us crash your meeting tonight. My name is Heather Hobson, and I'm the founder of Motormouth Multimedia. Motormouth Multimedia is a collective of Black and Brown creatives and consultants of color. I found that in Pittsburgh, especially, it's not super diverse, and until, you know, there might be years that go by before there's this brick and mortar place where people of color have their own communications and marketing business. There's lots of freelancers. So I thought, you know, how can we increase equity, you know, bring people together to tell marginalized stories and really increase the visibility of important issues, especially around African Americans and others that are marginalized. And my apologies if I'm a little off today, just because I had gotten food poisoning. So that's why I'm going first. So thank you for your understanding. So one thing that our company does is make sure that we have diverse voices at the table. I was messaging Josie back and forth because, you know, everybody doesn't know everything. And so we want to make sure things are inclusive and accessible. And even when I was talking to a graphic designer, some of the tools that Josie shared were things that, you know, and he's like a director at a major university of graphic design. So it's great to have these opportunities. So thank you. Now that I'm shared, I will share my screen. And this, I'm going to send this to Josie, so you'll have a copy of the worksheet, but it's just a storytelling self-advocacy worksheet. I won't stay on it the entire time, but just want to share a little bit, and you guys can see that, okay? Let's see, okay.
Yes, and folks, you have done similar stuff, and so you might be able to pull from what you've already written and kind of look at the structure here to pull it all together instead of rewriting everything.
Right, right. So this is a worksheet that you can, you know, it's just a guide. So it's not, there is no right or wrong way to tell your story. Your story matters. And this is just a worksheet that has some writing prompts and some questions. And this was created in partnership with Gigi Renee Hill, who is an advocate, and we hired her to do a writing workshop in my group, Single Mom Defined. And I'm a consultant with the Women and Girls Foundation, which is why I'm here tonight, but also I have a community called Single Mom Defined that's an in-person online support group. And what we wanted to do was really, you know, everybody has a story, but everybody doesn't necessarily tell their story. And we have a video of her doing this presentation. So this is a worksheet that we pulled from the presentation, but I'll also share that Zoom. It's about 30 minutes, so I'm not pulling and playing anything from it tonight, but she goes into a lot greater detail. And so for the first one, it's just a writing prompt and questions that guide you through the process of developing your own personal story to advocate for yourself and the cause that you believe in. In this case, it is paid family and medical leave, but this is a worksheet that you can use as you work with Josie or work on other campaigns. And you want to begin with a strong statement, and you would introduce yourself and begin with a strong, truthful statement describing your story, what takes place, what's going on. The second piece would be to describe the struggle, conflict, or problem. Sometimes people have a tough time with this part because, is my company's called Motormouth Multimedia. You probably know I talk a lot. As a child, I was nicknamed Eminem. I later worked as a television reporter. And, I have no problem sharing TMI about myself, not other people. And so you want to describe your struggle. And so you can use as much of your senses. You may want to describe what you see or what you hear or what it makes you feel like. And then the next piece would be a turning point. Would occur to create this change, and maybe there's not a change in this instance. It could be that there's a lack of paid family leave, and then you describe the resolution. So what did or could your life look like in the aftermath of a resolution? So for example, for paid family leave, and I'll share this worksheet with you so you don't have to worry about taking notes or anything. So for example, for paid family leave, a story could be about, like what happened to you and how your life could have been different if you had paid family leave. So for instance, we had within the Single Mom Defined community, moms shared their stories, which I'm going to share some of those stories with you. Moms shared their stories, and they talked about the losses that they had that occurred because of those stories. If they got sick and couldn't take time off, if they, like some moms did not have like paid, did not have paid maternity leave, and how it impacted their family. Some folks did not have time to take off to take care of a loved one. And I'm going to pull up because they can do a much better example sharing their story than I can. And I'm going to share an example. And these are kind of like these 30-second to a minute testimonials that you can write for your paid leave testimonial. And I'm going to share my screen just to give you an example, because sometimes it's better to hear an example and to see something. And there's lots of moms that shared their stories, and we had created a template, which we've created for the work that we are doing here with Josie. So I'm going to pick my friend Rebecca.
Hi, I'm Miss Rebecca from Detroit, Michigan. I'm a single mom and a licensed mental health clinician. Recently, I had to undergo a medical procedure in which the doctors requested I take 2 weeks off of work for a 10-week-long recovery. However, I was only able to take 3 days off of work because of the financial strain that it would place on my children and I. My company is not supported by paid leave, and had I been able to receive that, it would have not only helped to reduce the financial stress, but it would have really given me the opportunity to focus on my recovery. All moms deserve paid leave.
And that was our hashtag, was all moms deserve paid leave. And I will give you another example. And Rebecca, it was interesting because sometimes people think, oh, you have a good job, you have paid leave. Rebecca worked as a psychologist and did not have paid leave. And that really illustrated that everybody deserves it, no matter what your income level, no matter what your education level. You may not want to give specific details because, you know, my sister who works with me at Motor Mouth, she's a much more private person. So she doesn't, you know, she's not going to share like what she has an autoimmune um, deficiency. She isn't going to, she'll share it like in this type of setting, so she's not going to be mad at me for sharing that, but she's not going to announce it to the world on a video, and that is okay. There's personal things about myself, even though I talk a lot, that I'm not going to announce publicly, but you can still advocate and you can still share your story. So I'm going to share another story um, of one of our moms.
Hi, I'm Jenna and I live in Pittsburgh. I believe in paid leave for all because 5 years ago, when I had my daughter, I was not given any maternity leave benefits. And because of my low wage working in administration at a local university, I wasn't able to afford to take off 3 months without going back to work. So after 2 months, I left that job and started working full time as a nanny where my daughter could be with me. I believe that if that hadn't been the case and I had paid maternity leave, I would have been able to return to my job and continue on my career trajectory. And I often wonder where I would be now. So, with that ability, we would really be able to accomplish more as individuals and as a society.
And so there's lots of stories. We collected probably about 30 to 40 stories of moms talking about different scenarios. Perhaps they did not get adequate paid time off for maternity leave, or perhaps their spouse didn't get paid time off. We have a single mother with a hearing loss, and she talked about just, you know, not being able to take time off for different procedures that she has had to undergo. And as a single mother of two children, she illustrated the impact on her household. And maybe your story's not about you, but about a family member. If you don't have paid time off and you need to take care of a family member and like a parent or a child, especially during a pandemic, you know, you would want to share that. I know Heather later is going to talk about the different writing prompts, and so you would be able to take those different prompts and use this worksheet and come up with a story. I know, you know, I'm making it out to be very simple, but I mean, it is a process. Today, my daughter wrote something and we read it and we're like, okay, that's good, but it can be better if there is a second draft. So, how the paid leave story collection is happening here is that people are submitting videos, but you don't necessarily have to submit a video. You can submit a a, a testimonial that is a picture. And I'm going to pull an example up of Caitlin Householder, who shared one of her stories. She is a member of your group. And I'm going to pull up one of her examples because she was able to share her story and a photo. And I'll show you what that looks like. And this is a template that when you submit a quote, when you submit a photo, this is something that would be created. Josie would return this back to you, and you can share it on your social media channels through your e-newsletter or email distribution. Josie can share it through our e-newsletter distribution. And this is Caitlin, my favorite name. That's my daughter's name, if Caitlin's joining us tonight. But this is an example where Caitlin did not talk about the specific life event that happened, but she shared more so about the need of paid leave and how living through whatever that life event is unimaginable, and doing so without having the support to be able to take time off and not worry about going into deep debt or bankruptcy. So she shared this is a way to still share your story, which is just as powerful as a video. So it doesn't have to be with a video. And this is a gorgeous picture of Caitlin holding her baby.
And Heather, can I jump
So
in here real quick?
yeah, I was gonna give those examples, but I was
Yeah,
pause.
so that picture of Caitlin, that was something that she shared, and obviously I got permission to use, but she, just like most of you, has written her story, and Jorge, who was on our last trail meeting, he's helping to pull some of those quotes out of your stories, and specifically because of the picture of Caitlin, who visibly has lost her hair because of chemo and has a brand new baby. The picture tells the story, picture's worth 1,000 words. And in her situation, it certainly does. Now, I think we'll probably put alt text and describe it because that is so important. But for some of you, we would probably pick or have you submit a quote that was maybe told a little more of the background story, if it wasn't obvious in the picture. That's it. I'm sorry.
Okay. Oh, no, you're fine. I just wanted to give those examples and open it up to questions. Again, you'll get the worksheet because I know it's hard to, write a story within a few minutes of a presentation, but there are some resources that we'll share. We have the worksheet that I shared as a screen share this evening. And then the woman who worked with us to put that worksheet together, we did a mom's night out off event. I keep saying out, we're in COVID, we can't go anywhere. A mom's night off event where it was a virtual event and it was like a virtual dinner party, and people came on and attended this workshop and learned how to write their stories. But, again, you can write a story. I know many of you have already started to write those stories, and Jorge will extract a quote and include a picture. And this is something that, you all are like a cohort of advocates. So if there's someone that has a story beyond your group, you may be talking with friends or family, and maybe they have a story that they want to share. They are more than welcome to submit. We're trying to get as many stories, with, that are very diverse, and not only diverse, and sometimes people think diverse is just race, but diverse in so many scenarios. So I'm going to pause there to see if anyone has any questions. For instance, questions about using your cell phone to shoot your video, questions about what type of lighting, what you should do or shouldn't do. So I'm going to pause there, and then I'll give some tips at the end if folks don't ask questions about some of the specific, video how-tos.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Rach.
So I recorded my audio for making a video, and my plan was to put pictures of myself and my family and things that were important in our lives. But then my video is 2 minutes because I was trying to talk slow so that people could understand what I was saying and everything. But now looking at these, would you guys just rather take little snippets of parts of what I feel is most important and do it that way instead of telling a whole story?
Well, I think you can really do both, right? You can share a longer clip, and then, so we shorten these because of the platform of social media. folks do not have long attention spans, especially when you are on social and you're just scrolling. So you may stop and only listen to maybe a 20-second story or a
Right.
30-second story. So I think you can share like multiple different formats of your story.
Okay.
For these quick snippets that we would put in a template, such as the example that we showed, you want to keep it to like 30 to 60 seconds.
Okay.
In part because when it's a larger file, sometimes it gets
Right.
really hard to send the file from your, we had to do a lot of IT kind of like tech assistance with moms because the phone wouldn't allow, like it was hard to get like those larger
Yeah.
videos. So
That's
that
what I was like trying to like do the other day, and I'm like, why won't my audio go all the way in? And it was like, I think it's because it's too long. So maybe I'll just do like 2 parts that are kind of important and
Mhm.
just stick to that and make it shorter.
Yeah, thank you. And you brought up a, a really good point because we gave the examples of doing a video or a photo, like you saw the photo quote with Caitlin. But if someone is comfortable speaking, but they don't want to be on camera, they can, on your phone, there is a recorder and you can send that clip with the picture and we could put the audio clip under that. And that's just another option if people really want to, you know, elevate their voice, but don't necessarily want to go on camera. I was a television reporter, so I would always jump out in front of the camera. And my best friend was super shy, and she would definitely be the person submitting a quote in a picture, and maybe not even a picture, right? So, I mean, we want to make it open to everyone that wants to share their story, they can. So it can be a quote and a picture, an audio clip, a video. And when you do the video, you want to make sure that you hold it. That's my daughter. That's my Caitlin. You want to make sure that you hold it like in this landscape.
Like horizontal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you hold it this way, up and down, it puts, I don't know if you guys ever have seen videos where there's the black bars
Yeah.
down the middle. And this just makes it take up more of the screen. You also want to make sure that that you speak loudly. And I like the reminder. I was a little worried when I was going through the worksheet. Am I speaking too fast? Sometimes I get really excited and talk fast. You might want to practice in advance. I'll practice something before I hit record. And since it is on your phone, you could do it multiple times. I know my daughter, when I have her do, if we have to submit a video to advocate for something, she yells at me because she's like, we have to do it again. And we'll do it a couple times just to get over your nerves, just to get comfortable with the story that you're sharing. If you have anyone in the household with you, you can ask them, because sometimes it makes sense to us, the storyteller, but not necessarily someone else, especially if they don't know your story. So I remember I wrote a piece and, I shared it with my friends. They all thought it was like, oh, this is really good, but they knew the backstory of my story. And when I sent it to an editor, she said, well, I'm kind of lost. How did you get to this point? So you want to make sure that when you're telling your story, that it's clear, that it includes enough information that someone on the other side, after they hear that minute or after they read, those few sentences, then they get across that point that you were trying to make, that, the paid leave is something important. And I think somebody, let's see. Oh, someone said they're writing their story. So Melanie will have to share a little bit about her story. Aaron says, I have practiced shooting my video on my iPhone, but I can't seem to be able to submit the video properly from my phone to my email inbox. I wonder, Erin, if that's the length, because a lot of people have trouble if it's too long, it won't, like, unless you have like a Mac or something that can do like an airdrop to your computer. So if there's a way that you can condense it to maybe 30 seconds, that might solve the problem. The video icon pops up. I think that might be one of the problems, right? Okay, you said it's 3 minutes. So I think depending upon your phone, I know that my phone doesn't send, and I have an iPhone, but my phone won't send things over a certain length. So if you can try to get it under a minute, when we collected all the mom stories, the problems we did encounter was because of the length. And that doesn't mean, Erin, that you can't share that 3 minute story, because that 3 minute story may be a written story. Maybe it can be turned into an op-ed, or even if you guys have social media, you want to use that as your platform as well. You don't necessarily have to wait to get published in a newspaper or to secure an interview on television. That's your platform, and that's where a lot of your friends and supporters are there, who want to support the work that you do. So you can use the hashtag Paid Leave for All or Family Care Act. There's different hashtags that, so when we do searches, we can share your story. But you want to keep that in mind, because sometimes we forget. Through my communications company, we hire online influencers at times that have these large audiences. But I always say, if you take lots of people and add them up, their audience can be as big as an influencer. So if you have, even if you have 50 Facebook friends, that's 50 people that you can reach to share your story. And another tip, so we talked about like how to hold it, we talked about the length, but another tip is just, your lighting, making sure that you're somewhere that's well lit, that you're not in front of a window, because there's like that glaring light that can overexpose you. So you want to make sure you don't have, I have some lights on a stand that that I use just because I do this for work. But even before, so like sometimes I'll just grab like a couple lamps if you don't want to set up a professional light. I don't want to lug them from the basement. So I have a couple lamps here in the living room. So I'll just put those lamps around me and kind of make this makeshift studio. And I also want to add that it doesn't have to be perfect, and you want to have your authentic voice come across. I had a really tough time transitioning from being a television reporter, and I hosted a TV show, to I started a mom blog. My daughter was talking to me earlier, even though you say, I have a presentation, they ask questions. So she was a baby when I started a mom blog, because I missed being a television reporter. And it was hard for me to transition to, it's like, oh, there's not lights, there's not all these perfect things. But in social media, it's not highly produced and polished. And during the pandemic, what really reassured me was when I saw Oprah Winfrey. I think she was interviewing Alicia Keys, and they were having internet issues, and wasn't well lit, and it was presentable, the video, but it wasn't this highly polished produced show. And if anybody, I know the one thing, Erin, you had talked about that the video 3 minutes wouldn't work from your phone. So yes, it says, so you're recommending that the video itself should be only a minute. So if you keep it a minute or an under, that's great. If you want to tell a longer story, you can record on Zoom. If you open up a Zoom account, you can record on Zoom. and that goes directly to the cloud, which lately has taken a few days to send back to you. But you can record on Zoom, and it will record. You could like save it to a to like your downloads or desktop, and then that way, Aaron, that would also you know, get rid of that idea. Yeah. Zoom. I mean, folks are using Zoom for just about everything. I did a national interview and we recorded it on Zoom. So people are used to seeing that. And sometimes, and another way that you can record, if you aren't able to do it on your phone, I don't know what the program would be on, just because I have a MacBook, but iMovie, or not iMovie, QuickTime. QuickTime is on my computer. You can also record on QuickTime. So those are ways that you can do that. And, you know, it's like everybody has, you know, it's great that there's increased accessibility, because Facebook, you can even record on Facebook. If you don't want to go live in front of your friends, we have, for Motormouth Multimedia, we have like this fake group that we set up that's only for us when we're practicing things, or we got a new piece of equipment and we want to make sure it works. We'll live stream into this group so we can record that. So, so Aaron, if you don't have Zoom, you can do it on Facebook by setting up a group and just doing it that way and downloading. So there's lots of tips and tricks that we're learning in the midst of a pandemic. Yeah, okay, yeah, you have Zoom, so that so you would just hit record and then select to when you hit end, it would give you the prompt. You want to hit record to your computer. So does anybody have like their story that they want to maybe ask questions about, or share anything with the group?
When we're writing, are we supposed to be writing it formally, like the whole no contractions and all that stuff? Or
Your story. Yeah. So, I mean, if you talk and you're formal, then, you know, you can be more formal. You can be informal. They want to hear from real people. So it's when I was a television reporter, I was always told to talk to the camera as if like it was my mom or best friend. So I would like envision that my mom was standing in front of me and I'm telling this to somebody that I'm comfortable, and that helped me not get nervous. As you see, I talk a lot with my hands. So when I do videos, sometimes I just like clasp my hands, and that keeps me from talking a lot, because I'll talk a lot and like knock over the water or coffee that's next to me. So you can do things like, you know, clasp your hands if you're worried about, if you're like me, I get excited and I'm like, oh. So, and then you just want to make sure that you're speaking clearly, you don't necessarily have to over articulate or sound really formal or even rehearse or memorize. I would advise against memorizing anything, because it can come off like it's not, like, you know, like it's scripted. And if anybody has questions that they think of after this Zoom, like we're still accessible through Josie. So you can send questions or, you know, anything to, and if you have like a quote, like Jorge is assisting putting the templates together, you can run quotes in your stories by Jorge, who's at WGF as well.
And I can get those all between everyone among and all of those. So don't, if you want to share something, just let me know and I'll get it to the right people.
Right. And any tips that you have, like through Josie, because we want to make sure that everything is accessible. And, you know, I love that, you know, we have a diverse group at WGF because, you know, that's important to make sure that everybody's represented, because there were things, as I mentioned, you know, one of the designers is a director at a major university of graphic design. And Josie shared some tips and a tool that he was unaware of, that particular tool. Anything, because sometimes, you know, sometimes people are just don't know. So if you need us to add anything, Josie mentioned we have places where we would add the alt text, and I believe Jorge is going to be working with Josie for closed captioning as well. And the closed captioning on, I don't know if they're trying to fix it, but Zoom, they've been getting complaints that the closed captioning does not, doesn't match up.
This captioning, they've just updated it.
Oh, they
I
are.
don't know, ladies and gentlemen, if you've been watching it, but I am extremely impressed.
Oh, okay, that's great. Because at first we would, I did a live event with someone, and we brought on closed captioners as well as someone to do sign language, because
Yeah.
Zoom, I think it just happened overnight. So that's good to-
Things are getting literally this week, it's gotten better.
Mm.
So, okay, Heather, thank you so much, especially when you've been dealing with some ailments today. Thank
That's okay.
you. And folks, I'm sure that if you have questions, you'd reach out to me. If not, do it, because I will make sure one of us gets back to you, because this really is an important topic, whether it be about the Family Care Act or something in the future that's important to you.
Right. So that worksheet again is, it's open. So it's like an advocacy worksheet. So if Josie's working with WGF on, it's kind of like you can just plug in whatever the issue is. But thank you. You guys made me feel better. This was like the best, one of the bright spots of
Oh,
my day.
I'm so sorry, Heather. That sounds rough.
Oh, no, no.
Heather's Zoom is like
Okay, but
amazing.
this is
No,
I feel good, but talking
I
to you
love these
guys, I was
folks.
like, oh, I forgot I was sick.
And Melanie, you look like a little glowworm over there with your flashlight on.
Sorry.
No,
I mean,
it's okay.
The whole thing I'm working on, but that's, yeah.
I know you're writing
Oh,
it.
Melanie said the trail also has a Facebook group. So if
Yeah.
you guys are in the group, you can practice going live,
That's true.
like within the group. And that, sometimes the group is kind of like your tribe, and if you want to, what you could do is share your story in the group. So it's like, hey, I'm getting ready to record. Here's the script, or here's the video, and let folks take a look to see, you know, because I think sometimes, you know, and just make sure that, again, you don't have to give every detail, but making sure that like everyone's not necessarily, like if I tell my story, making sure there's like maybe those 3 points, how it impacted me, how, you know, maybe, or even if you don't have like a super specific story and you're talking to friends, and like sometimes people will say when we do outreach, they'll say, oh, I don't have a story, but it's kind of like that what if scenario, like right now, who knew my daughter's grandmother is in Texas, who knew that would happen, right? And you know,
Yeah,
she
right.
can't get to work, she can't get out of her driveway. So there could be a what if story within this group, or you know, when you're talking to your family, you can recruit them and they can say, you know, like my sister submitted a story, and she talked about the fact that we're in the sandwich generation, that she and I are taking care of our kids. Our parents are in their 70s. If something happened, what would you do? Because as an entrepreneur, like it's so funny. My sister says, we're advocating for paid leave. And today I said, oh, I wish I had a paid sick day. But through this legislation, you know, it covers folks like entrepreneurs. So that's like a what if scenario of, this was like my only sick day in like a year.
Oh, gosh.
where it's kind of like, oh, God's my safety net. But, we want, things happen,
That's
right?
right.
No matter what your beliefs, things happen. And prayer to me is amazing. But we need to make sure that, that we're properly protected through legislation. So thank you guys. And again, if you have
Thank
any
you.
questions, you can send that through Josie.
Oh, I loved your quote, like, God is our safety net. Just chuckling because, like, on the farm, we always said, like, say a prayer, trust God, but close the gate. And so
Right.
it's like, shut the gate so the cows don't get out. Same type of idea. Um,
Right.
Thank you, Heather and Rachel. I would say early April at the latest because we're going to have some big to-dos in April on social to try to get the word out there. But before that is fine too. And I will offer to do what's that, friend?
I said the sooner the better because Jorge
I
has
know.
to
It's true. It's true. And we can also do a Zoom practice session if y'all wanted to. That we just all share our stories. We could record it too, technically, but
I think that's a really good idea to talk about your stories. And that's what we did. So when Gigi Renee, who she is an author and a speaker, and that's what we did. We had her do her workshop, and we kind of had like an open opportunity for people to share out if they wanted to share out. So it's always good. And then it creates like a sense of community because sometimes you think like
yeah.
when I started Single Mom Defined, I was like, I'm the only person that, broke up with someone during a pregnancy. But when you have this group and you guys share your stories, don't just let that end. Share that story. And when someone posts on Facebook, share the link with each other, drop it in the Facebook group, and everybody push it out.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
Thank you so much, Heather.
Bye,
Really
guys.
appreciate it. Get some rest.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Bye.
I'm passing the torch to the other Heather.
Feel better.
Yes. Okay, so Heather Arnay is our next speaker. I'm gonna pull up your slides.
Great. And I know that everybody wants to be done by 9, and you will be done by 9. I will not keep you. I promise, because it's late. It's late. And so, Heather covered so much. So I'm just going to, what I really wanted to focus on was sometimes, and sometimes people are like, well, what am I going to do my story about? Sometimes it's really obvious. And sometimes folks are like, I'm not exactly sure what I want to do my story about. And you might also be wondering, what are they even going to use these stories for? What's the purpose? And so, what part of it is, as you all know, we very much want to have you be champions and warriors for paid family and medical leave out there and strong advocates. But one of the things that's really hard as advocates for paid family and medical leave is sometimes folks, when they hear paid leave, they immediately just think maternity leave. And that's an important kind of leave, but it's just one story. And why it's especially important to have lots of stories is because when legislators end up deciding what's in a bill, they start to take things away. And so one of the things that we notice right away when we work on these bills is that often what legislators will say, and you might have heard this from even like, when we had President Trump in office, Democrats were in support of paid leave. Ivanka Trump was in support of paid leave. But one of the things that you might have noticed is that very quickly paid leave became maternity leave, parental leave. And again, there's nothing wrong with parental leave and maternity leave. We need those things. Those are important things, right? Parents need time to bond with a new child, whether that's an adoptive child or a child who has any kind of parents, right? A new child absolutely needs time to bond with their parents. Also, women especially need time to be able to take care of themselves physically as well as prevent postpartum depression. So there's lots of reasons why that's wonderful. We also know that we can decrease infant mortality and decrease maternal mortality and increase breastfeeding rates and increase paternal participation and all sorts of great things with parental leave. However, there are a whole bunch of things that aren't included in parental leave. And so here are some of the things that we really are looking for stories about, because they matter, because legislators have to be reminded that when we talk about paid family and medical leave, maternity and parental leave is important. But again, those are just one kind of story. So the kinds of things that are listed here, the team that's working on this campaign, all of us have had all of these things. So, I mean, like, these are things represented by our team. So someone has had to take leave because their dad was having heart surgery. Someone has had to take leave because their sister was battling cancer. Someone had to take leave because they were going through cancer treatment and had to take time for their chemotherapy treatment. You might have a spouse or partner who's going through chemotherapy treatment. You might need a critical surgical procedure, or someone might need to care for you while you have a critical surgical procedure, or someone you love might have to have a surgery. A child who is not an infant might need care. My son has asthma. He also has autism. He is an amazing person who has needed care throughout his life, not just when he was an infant. Sometimes we encounter, particularly, I would say, sometimes young white men in their 20s who are very able-bodied and think this will never be relevant to them because they are also single and they don't have children and all these things. And they get into car accidents or motorcycle accidents, or someone they love gets ill. Everybody will need care at some time in their lives, or they will need to care for someone. We are human. And this legislation is about taking care of our humanity. We also, one of the things that I really appreciate about the legislation is that you can take time to care for your own mental health needs, or to take care of somebody else who has mental health needs through their rehabilitation. Also, folks who are dealing and struggling with addiction. One of the things that we know is that when folks are struggling with an opium addiction and they do go into rehabilitation, one, you need to have paid family and medical leave in order to have time to go into rehab and keep your job. But also, if you get out, you're much less likely to overdose in the first 2 weeks after coming out if someone can take care of you and be there so you are not alone in those first 2 weeks. So paid family and medical leave is so critical so that people can take care of the people that they love, so that when something happens to us, we know that we can be cared for. And that's really what it's about. And those are really the stories we're looking for. Josie, can you go to the next slide? And then we'll skip even to so we'll do this for just a second. So you all know this because you are Trails members, but just to remind us, right, this paid family and medical leave, these benefits, and when we talk about paid family and medical leave, whether we are talking about a state bill or we're talking about a federal bill, what you can know as part of this group, this Family Care Coalition, that Josie's part of, that you're all part of, that we're part of at Women and Girls Foundation, when we talk about paid family and medical leave for all, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about paid family and medical leave benefits for everyone, for the LGBTQ community, for people with disabilities, for families recovering from addiction, for seniors, for elder care, for children and parents to take care of one another, right? So this is about everyone having time to care for one another while also not being afraid of losing their jobs in the meantime. And that's important to us as people who need care so that our caregivers can also take time when they need it most. Josie, next slide. Thank you. Thank you, Josie. So just to give you, a little bit of an idea, as I'm sure Josie's talked a lot with you about our state efforts here in Pennsylvania to pass the Family Care Act, so that we can establish a paid family and medical leave insurance fund that would cover almost all workers in Pennsylvania, just as folks have in New York and New Jersey and Maryland and Connecticut and Massachusetts and Oregon and Seattle and Washington and all these other states now. So yes, that is critical, and we will only do it with all of your help. And in the meantime, we also have a new presidential administration and a new Congress who also are open to the idea that paid family and medical leave is a priority, and that it is priority for the economic recovery of this nation. And so here are some of the opportunities that are coming up around the bend at the federal level. And because there are so many, you see here, there's the stimulus package you're all hearing so much about around the Recovery Act. There's the first 100 days of the new administration. On this Tuesday, President Biden will present his State of the Union address, where he will probably begin to message around his Build Back Better plan for the country, which really will lay the foundation for his first budget address. And what we all want to be communicating throughout all of this is that paid family and medical leave needs to be part of all of these things, part of the Recovery Act, part of the new budget, part of the first 100 days, part of the centering of economic recovery efforts. And that's where all of you come in, and that's where your stories come in, because it's only through hearing the voices of real people that legislators will understand why this is so critically important. And part of why they need to hear from real people is because they're a little bit unreal themselves, because they already have this benefit. And because they've had it for so long, they don't even realize what it's like not to have it. So that is why we need to be able to share these stories with them, to remind them that not everybody is as lucky as a legislator who has a six-figure salary and great benefits, and paid leave is just one of them. The rest of the folks, everybody else who's not that 14% of people in this country, don't have those things. And they need to be reminded about why those things are so important. So that's what I think I was here to talk to you about. And I'm done with 5 minutes early, but I do want to take your questions.
Yes. So while she's here, let us pick her brain. Are there any questions you have for Heather?
Josie, if you can stop sharing so I can see everybody, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
I'm so grateful to you for doing the slides. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. Maybe I can stop there.
And I love right away, I'm just seeing Mimi's question, like, what if you've experienced multiple examples? Girl, I hear you. Like, I have like 6 of those things. Then you should do them each as their own separate vignette.
Yeah.
And that would be wonderful, because we need all those different kinds of stories. For me, when I had Travis, my son, who I mentioned earlier, I wasn't lucky enough to be working at the Women and Girls Foundation then. I worked for another nonprofit. I didn't have paid family and medical leave. I didn't have any paid leave when I had him. I had to go back to work 3 weeks after having him. I was lucky because my husband actually had paid leave through his job. And so he was able, after my 3 weeks, to then stay home with our son for a bit of time. But for me, actually, the time, once I then was working at Women and Girls Foundation, where we do have paid leave, when I've had to take advantage of that wonderful benefit has been when my mom was in the hospital, which has happened a few times, when my dad had a heart surgery. So, taking care, Heather mentioned being part of the sandwich generation. I've had to take paid leave more for non-infant reasons, having experienced that part of parenthood. So yes, we need all those stories, and I would just record them separately so we can use them as separate ones, because as you're hearing, the short span of time is helpful on social media.
And Mimi, I'm not going to personally share all your stuff. That's up to you. But I'm thinking of the diversity of your stories and how they could be really effective to different audiences too, which is super helpful. So.
And I will also, all of us women are so important, but I will also make an extra plug for all the men in trails to please record your stories as well. Because just like I mentioned, how people just automatically think about maternity leave or parental leave when they hear paid leave, they also often put a female face onto this issue. They just see women either as mothers or caregivers. But you all, and I mean you all meaning all the men and women here, know that that's not true, right? That men are just as much caregivers. I only have one kid. He's a son. So I really hope that when I need it, he'll be there, right? Like sons take care of their mothers. Husbands take care of their wives. Husbands take care of their husbands. Dads take care of their children. And so it's so important that we have men tell their stories so that they are part of the equation and they aren't left out of the legislation.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Heather. And guys, we have 2 minutes. So any last questions for Heather A? We have a lot of Heathers on our team, and so we like to differentiate.
We have Heather, and there's a Heather in Trails leader.
Well, no, she's a trail member. She
Oh.
could practically lead it, but
Yeah.
there are so many people in this group that could lead it.
Yeah.
And that's why you
Good
didn't know it,
question.
but I'm gonna hand it over to you guys at the end of this. Be yours. Actually, the job of trail is so that any one of you could actually run trail yourself. So I'm not totally kidding. Like, I want all of you to be able to teach other people what we're sharing here about your story and everything. I won't make you do it. I just encourage you to. Any other questions? Okay, so a couple things I did want to hit on that Heather Hobson started to talk about. One, if you use your phone to record, I would recommend, Aaron, as you guys were kind of talking about, Zoom is one way, and you could, like right now, this is being recorded to YouTube. You could record it to Facebook, and as was mentioned, you could put it in a private group. If you do it to Facebook, it can caption it automatically if you don't have if you're not using the Zoom caption like we are now. That's one thing to be aware of. Two, if you're using your phone, there are free teleprompt apps that you can download. So say you write out your story and you want to be looking at the camera on your phone, you can have it as a teleprompter and you can look like you're talking to the camera, but reading it. Three, if you're planning on doing videos beyond just this one, I do recommend getting like a little cell phone tripod. I got mine for like $10. And I didn't get the fancy light and all that. I just got a tripod that I could set up and click and it would do what I needed. So it's not a big purchase, but if you think you're going to want to do more or do more live events, maybe pick one up. I have other tips, but we don't have time to go into them. But if you want any additional information, I will share my PowerPoint, and then you can, look at it. It has all the different tips that we were not able to share tonight. I'm going to try to share that right now. Any final questions? You guys are allowed to come off mute too. Okay. There it is. Okay, if you want, you can download it. I'm sending it through, I'm hoping. Hoping that I'm sharing it through Zoom in a second. So you can download it there, or I can send it in an email too. wait, okay, same question. Well, I was wondering if that was a thing. You were saying that you were wondering if there was a teleprep thing that existed. Yes.
Yeah, no, I was saying I didn't know that was a thing. Like there were
Yeah, it's
teleprompt apps.
cool. Yes. So I don't know all the Apple ones. That was something I learned in my political training, is that they have these teleprompt things, and you can have it like show the words slower or faster. I'd say record yourself, listen to yourself, and say, "Ooh, that was fast," and then redo and have it slow down the text for you.
Do you mind sharing if it's a quick thing? Do you mind sharing what the apps are? I have Android.
I will
don't-
try to find it.
Okay.
Because I don't know what the Apple one in the app stores, you should be able to find it also.
Okay.
You don't have access to Zoom, Kate. That isn't a problem. If you have a phone, you can just record it and email it, as long as it's under a minute, or you could do a Facebook Live. So either one. Okay, friends.
I missed it. What was the benefit of the picture of the woman?
Because it showed that she had a newborn and she was dealing with cancer.
No, not householder. The one that
Oh.
you just put up.
Is that what I shared?
Yes. Because I thought you were sharing like PowerPoint tips or something. And
I
there were
did too.
no words on it.
What did I share? Basically, I don't know. If it was not a PowerPoint, I don't know what I shared. Don't worry about the importance of that. Trail video workshop. That should have been Melanie. Did you click on the PowerPoint? Like the little link thing?
Oh, did you put it in chat?
Yeah.
No.
What did you look at?
I think what Melanie's referring to is like a picture just like flashed on the screen, and it
Oh.
was like a picture of, it looked like an art photo or something. But then the link that is in the chat that you were saying about. 'Cause
I
saw-
have no idea what that was.
Because Melanie, I felt the same thing. I was like, wait, what's that?
Obviously,
But I know
that
what she
was-
referring to.
It looked like that was Heather's. It looked like that was Heather's off-camera picture.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. That's
'Cause
funny.
I looked
Okay.
at it too, and I'm like, "What's that?" And I saw her name was still bottom left corner.
Got
Oh.
it.
Okay.
Okay. So I have to go run Bible study. Do you guys want me to leave this open for you all to talk, or are you good?
I gotta get my little one to bed, but thank you guys so much. I appreciate tonight, Josie. It was very helpful.
Great. I'm so glad you guys came. I will talk to you soon. I'll send this stuff out. Thanks for joining, everyone. Have a